wasn't
Okay.
really textbook because I didn't read everything. I was just kind of
It
I
was
reading.
it was it was about the image. God made us in His image.
right.
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
pull the screen up really fast and read the 2 verses.
Like I didn't
Um,
read the textbook, but I watched the videos.
yeah, those videos were actually. I like those videos. They're fun
Yeah, the guy makes it so easy.
for real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the 2 verses. It says Genesis 1:27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. ESV. And then Psalms 139:13 through 16. For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them. And then it just says, we know that many disorders are actually brain-based disorders, such as schizophrenia, and in some cases depression and anxiety. How do these verses, which explain that our minds were in fact created by God and in His image, and the fact that some disorders are brain-based, inform your faith-based clinical identity and practice?
And I've looked at so many verses regarding this particular issue, and I guess you can look at it from several different ways because first of all, the first verse that I looked at was Exodus 4:10-12, where it talks about, and I know we're talking about the different um, um, brain disorders, but I went with Moses first. When Moses said, but Moses said to the Lord, "Oh, my Lord, I am not eloquent either in the past or since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and of tongue." Then the Lord said to him, "Who has made man's mouth? Who makes him mute or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you should speak." So apparently, God has made each one of us individually, and He's done this. I understand we're made in His image, but He's made the disorders came, and I know there's another scripture talking about glorifying Him. Remember the scripture about where they said, "Who sinned? Did the mother sin? Did the parents sin? Or did the son sin?" And He said no, and it was to and I think I had written that one down as well. Oh yeah, and his disciple asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "It was not that this man sinned or his parents, but the works of God might be displayed in him. We must work the works of Him who sent me while it is day." And I think even though they have disability, then God can be glorified, or God could work. We can see the work of God through them. So is you can look at this several different ways, and I see them as special. Anybody with challenges, that God is doing a special work in them, and we're able to see God work through him. You know,
Mm.
so I had that one, and then I had but He said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me." So I think the grace is seen through people more so with disability. God's grace. And so, because I thought about this and I thought about this and I looked and looked, and it's like, okay, Lord, you have to tell me why, even though we're made in the image of you, why is there such a disparity between some with challenges? And then there was another scripture, and I'm telling you, you can take it any kind of way. There was Romans 5:12 that says, "Therefore, just as sin came into the world through one man, and death through sin, And so death spread to all men because all sin. So I guess you can look at it several different ways, you know, because of the fall of man. Also, we were no longer those perfect human beings. So God man had to show his grace through man. So we all have challenges. Some have more than others. That's what I think or believe. You know, and his grace is sufficient, and we see him working through all of us, and especially ones with severe challenges. You know, so that's what I came up with.
Mm-hmm. So I was pretty similar to you, D'Antoni, in recognizing that there's so many, I mean, and I think that that's part of the church in general, is there's so many ways to interpret the Bible, right?
Right.
And then there's people who deductively study it, and there's people who inductively study it. And I mean, there's just so many different ways to go about it. But I think for me, what it really comes down to was seeing, in Genesis 1, we are formed in his image. With that, I love that whole concept of perichoresis, that like celebratory dance of being built for relationship and being built for relationship with him and with others. And then you look into Genesis 3 and the fall, and really it's kind of cool when you look at it how and I forget what theologian I read that really put it out there well, but the idea that when the fall happened, there was distance created, there was barriers created, not only between man and God, but man and themselves, and then man and others, and then man and creation. So those four main areas. So we're in a fallen world, and that's kind of how I made sense of it was, you know, we're in a fallen world. I think it's extremely dangerous when people start to try and say like, well, this was the sin of your past or the sin of your past generations or whatever, and that's why you have it. I think that's a very dangerous road to go down. But I think with your Romans 5 thing of saying, you know, death has entered the world and sin has entered the world. So we're all in a sinful world, and there's suffering now, and there's sickness, and there's pain, and there's that separation. So I guess that's how I make sense of it, is we're in a fallen world, and to put it lightly, nasty stuff happens. And I, on the flip side, love the fact that there is that grace that you were talking about, D'Antoni, and there still is that community, and even more so, you know, like for us then as counselors, but even above that, for us as followers of Christ, what does that mean for us to live alongside people, you know, regardless of what that suffering is? What does it look like for us to live alongside them? And then in this context, what does it look like for us to walk alongside those that are suffering from schizophrenia, depression, anxiety? But yeah, a lot of what you were saying, D'Antoni, same kind of idea.
It's interesting because we all kind of like are thinking in the same direction. But I want to just bring something like I want to say like an experience for my job, because I asked the same question some time ago. I was talking to my husband. I was like, you know, it's so hard. You look at these people, because I have a few people at my job. They're like about 3 of them. They know when they say these people are just religiously preoccupied, you know, they hear them talking, and like, these are Christians. So I was not questioning. I was like, they are Christians. They truly love God. They're reading the Bible so well. Maybe they misunderstanding the Bible. I don't know why they would go crazy because of the same Bible. I was kind of questioning, why would that happen? But then again, I'm also trying to explain to me, like, maybe it's their cross to bear, you know, just like you're saying. And I think D'Antoni was talking about a passage. I think it was Apostle Paul that was talking about that. There's nowhere in all of his writing where Apostle Paul prayed and says, God, take away something from me. He was saying that God give him the grace, and God, he was encouraging the Christians as well, that God should give them the grace to go through whatever they have to go through. You know, so maybe some of us that we don't go through those things, it might be easy to say, oh, maybe this person sinned, because that's kind of the religious mindset. But again, might be not, there was nothing that they really did, just maybe their own cross to bear. We may not understand it, but they are going through it at that moment. You know what I mean? It's like something that they have to face in life, something that they have to deal with, and you can't really understand it. But does that mean that their mind is not created by God? No, it doesn't mean that way. It just means that that's the cross that they have to bear at that time. It doesn't mean that there was anything that they did or something, you know. So when we were discussing, I was like, that makes sense. I said, I was like, no, I just pray that they're able to come out of whatever it is that they're going through, because some of them have spoken to them. They are truly believers. They truly love God. They just kind of maybe just understanding the Bible the wrong way, and they are taking things literally and not really, so it's just it's kind of the same situation. So for this topic this week, the same way I was just thinking about that, like, okay, why do some people come out of, they have like a mental breakdown, whatever, they come out of it quickly, and some they struggle with that, so it's kind of, we're in a sinful world because of what Adam and Eve did, and Jesus came and kind of Jesus came as grace personified, so to speak, and kind of try to get us back to Christ. So it would take like, and you're having to go through their own struggles to kind of come out of that. So if that makes sense. So I think just understanding that will help us be able to work with people, and be empathetic with them, and not judge them or think that, oh, they did something wrong, or they, I don't know. It was kind of just, it got me thinking about a lot of things this week. So
yeah.
And then I was looking at the another thought that came for this was also how some people are able to come out of having a mental breakdown or having mental illness, or how some people are able to deal with that. You see some people they have those struggles, but they are still able to function. Then there are some, is like they can't just get their lives together, So, and I was reading the cases in a textbook on chapter 7. There was a story of Collins, I think. He had a mental breakdown. He went to the hospital one time in the whole time he had that, and he was able to recover. Then on the other end, there's Ethel. Ethel is not taking medication. So they started to wonder, like, for me, I was just thinking that line, that how medication plays with their minds as well, how medication plays with their minds, and how some people may have side effects, and some people, it won't do anything to them, so something like that too. That was kind of another thought that I had. So yeah.
Yeah, when you were talking, Rachel, you so Job is like one of my favorite books, because I just feel like it shows you, like who God is. Everything else can just be jacked up, right? And even our friends can be kind of messed up. But when everything else fails and everything else changes and everything else is stripped away, God is still unchanging, and his character and his nature is still steadfast and faithful and loving. And so I love watching Job go through what he went through, and then seeing him at that very end. I think it's like 42:5-6 or something, where he says, like, I had heard of you with my ears, but now I've seen you with my eyes. And just that understanding of, like, through that hardship, he came to know the Lord so much more. And then that very next verse is like, so therefore I am on my knees before you, God, because you are so worthy and you are so awesome. And just that, I don't know, just that humility that he shows, but also the strength and the beauty that shows through what he went through. And I'm not even going to pretend like I understand what it's like for someone to deal with schizophrenia or, even severe anxiety or depression. But it inspires me personally as one, a follower of Christ, and two, as a counselor, that's the kind of steadfast support and like space that we can create for our clients, you know, and that just that support for people as you were saying, Rachel, as people bear their cross, whatever that might be.
Right.
Right. And it just made me think of, go ahead.
No, sorry. No, I just when you just talk about Job, how his struggles kind of humbled him. Even though it was already a humbled man in the beginning, but he humbled him even more.
Right.
When I was watching the videos for the class this week, one of the videos, the guy talked when he talked about schizophrenia, one of the schizophrenia videos, he talked about John Nash. So I went on and I watched his documentary. He started off. I mean, you would have seen the movie The Beautiful Mind, but the documentary is way better. So he started off as this cocky, boastful, intelligent genius. By the time he went through his schizophrenia, that humbled him. You know, and what I found interesting about his story was that all the years I went through the mental illness and going to the psych unit and all of that, it was around when he was almost 60, I believe, he just went cold turkey on medication. He stopped taking his medication like in the 1970s. So people thought he was still on medication. But then he said he had to will his treatment or whatever he said. So like, how did he will? He said he had to just make himself stop hearing those auditory voices. Like he willed himself to normal state again. And people thought he was still on medication, but he said he stopped medication since 1970. So I was just, somebody made a comment there. I was like, how come he didn't will it before he went through all that craziness? Right. But the thing is, that humbled him. Like, he became so humble that people were just wondering what happened to John Nash. He became so humble, even, you know, until his last days. I just thought that was pretty interesting when you talk about how Job. So when people go through what they go through, we never know, you know. That's kind of their own journey. What we can do is to support them and try to, you know, understand why they go through what they go through. So.
That's cool. That's cool that you watched the documentary too.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. I was like, oh, let me see that. Let me movie. I wanted to see the real person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I just got the notice. I don't know if you guys saw it, but we have like 3 minutes left, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. Any last thoughts?
No, I just want to, I guess I want to say the same thing as you, Lisa, that Job is my favorite one as well, besides Jesus Christ.
Right.
But he goes through so much, but in spite of all his challenges that was inflicted on him at the hands of Satan, he still stayed faithful to God, you know, and so, you know, and when we go back and we look at our images, we're still made in the image of God, and we're still here, and we're going through what we're going through because of the fall of man. Because you know, if the fall of man did not happen, then this would be a perfect world. You know, so the challenges they're here, and we just have to be humbled. And as counselors, we need to be there for the individuals who are having these challenges. You know, and just remember, they are made in God's image. You know, and
Yep.
Right, and not judge them for who they are, what they're going through. Yep. So in Job, he's just one that shows you that humbleness, you know. And when I was going through my difficult time last year, that's the one that I thought about the most. It's like, okay. And still, he's the one when I'm going through, I think about, you know, in spite of, you know, yeah, I did get angry with God. He got angry with God. He shows you the true person, you know. So, and I think that we just need to be empathetic, you know, for our clients for every one of them, whoever walked through our doors, they have different issues, and we just have to be there for them and ask God to guide us in helping them.
Right.
You know.
Agreed. That was a strong finish to Anthony. Thank you. I'm just going to listen to those last few minutes and write the discussion on that, because that was a great
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, we're done.
Yeah.
We're done. Well, y'all have a good evening. I'm going to get settled in.
Sounds good.
Yeah, get some rest. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
I will post this in the discussion board, and then I think we're all good. So I'll post the video, and then I'll write some points for us just off the video.
Okay.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank y'all.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank y'all so much. Y'all have a good one.
You too.
Good night.
Bye.